Hey there, it's John from Heroes and Legends. Today we're looking at Magic the Gathering Finance. This is the second week that we've been following some trends in both modern and standard. This week we're going to focus on some of the impacts that we saw from the Modern Masters leaks that came out a few days back and what that did to especially the modern market. But first let's start off by looking at our big movers in standard, and we'll look specifically at the top three cards that have lost value this week in standard. Coming in at number 3 is Soulfire Grandmaster. It went down 92 cents, but it's still valued at $12.60. And some of this is just a little bit of stabilization. A lot of these mythic rare cards were very hyped coming out of both Fate Reforged and Dragons of Tarkir. So it's to be expected you're going to see a little bit of settling of these values. Number 2 is Dragon Whisperer, and here's another good example of a mythic card that was probably valued very high as the set was releasing and is now finding its more stable price range. It did lose $1.06, which is pretty significant, but it's still valued at $6.82, and it is still seeing standard play in some decks. And our biggest card loss of the week in Standard for the second week in a row is Narset Transcendent. So this is starting to feel a little scary now because Narset's lost about $6-7 of value over the last 2 weeks. This week she lost $3.79, bringing her to $27.59. Now that's still almost $30 for a Planeswalker. That's not bad. I think this is just stabilization. There was just a ton of hype around her before the set was released. She was being pre-release sold for $50, and we all knew, I think, at that time that was just super inflated. So some of this is just the market catching up as the hype is dying down and more of these cards are getting into circulation. It'll be interesting to see where she goes over the next couple of weeks. At this point, if you're looking for quick cash value, she's probably a sell, but if you're in it for the long term, she will have some long-term value, I think. Now let's look at the 3 standard cards that have gained value this week. We'll start at number 3, and this is Deathmist Raptor. What's kind of funny about this one is he was losing value last week, and I kind of said, hang on to your Raptors. They're being played in a lot of decks, and quite honestly, in some cases, you can pretty much play this in any color deck if you use the ability. So he's coming in now at 2065. He increased by 84 cents. I think this card is going to continue to go up. I think the decrease we saw last week was just normal stabilization as more were getting into circulation. But this card has a lot of potential for standard and perhaps even modern. Our number 2 biggest mover was Dragonlord Silmagar. Probably comes to no surprise. This is one of the marquee cards during the Pro Tour a couple weeks ago, and copies of this card were in the runners-up deck in the Pro Tour finals. So kind of to be expected, but an awesome card. He's coming in now at $16.37 with an increase this week of $3.40. And our biggest mover this week in Standard is Dragonlord Ojutai, and he's up a whopping $5.49. He was also our biggest mover last week, and he's cashing in now at $31.49. So these Dragon Lords, they're hitting a little bit of a peak, I think. So if you're in this for short-term value, might be a good time to sell off some of the Dragon Lords. But long-term value, these are going to be good cards, at least as long as they're standard legal, if not longer. So this is a fantastic card. This is a great investment. I think we're going to still see some more increase out of this card before it stops. Now let's look at Modern, and the top 3 cards that have lost value this week. We'll start with number 3, and that is All Is Dust. All Is Dust is one of the cards that was named in the leak that said that it was going to be reprinted in Modern Masters 2015 as a mythic rare. That is unconfirmed. In fact, we already know some of the information from that leak, specifically the fact that the leak said Splinter Twin was going to be a mythic rare, and it's actually been confirmed now that that's being reprinted as a rare. That type of stuff kind of makes you question the leak. So some of this value, in fact, probably all this movement is in response to that leak. So it's tough to say. Will All in Dust be reprinted? There's a good chance the leak was a reliable source, but at the same time, we don't know, and he's already been wrong about one piece of it. So this card, still valued at $19, but it did take a $5.49 dip just because of that leak, which is pretty significant. Number 2 is Vendilion Click, and this was a confirmed reprint, and this will be a mythic rare. in the Modern Masters 2015 set. And again, because of that announcement, this saw a pretty good decline of $5.60, still valued at $65.99. And this, we're talking in particularly the Modern Masters 1 version of this card, but that's the one that took the biggest hit. The Morningtide version is still holding a little value better than this version is at this time. And our number one biggest decline that we saw for Modern was Fulminator Mage. And he lost a whopping $6.17, bringing him down to 33.32, which still feels too high for this card. But he suffers the same fate of All Is Dust, where he was named as a card that will be reprinted in the rare slot in Modern Masters 2015. Again, that's unconfirmed. We don't know that for sure, and we've already found at least one error in the leak that turned out to be not true. So take it for what it's worth, but it did definitely hurt the value of this card this week. Now let's look at the top 3 Modern Masters cards that have gained value. And number 3 on the list is Iona, and Iona gained value last week as well, so this card just keeps going up. Now it's valued at $29.25, and it increased by $2.51. One side note that's interesting, this was another card that was spoiled, quote unquote, in the leak. So this was supposed to be reprinted as a mythic rare, but even with that information, it didn't hurt this card. It's continuing to see an increase. And again, it was an unconfirmed leak. Number 2, and this shouldn't surprise you if you saw our standard list, Dragonlord Silmagar is just increasing in value just so rapidly. $3.40 increase for $16.37 is just such a strong card. It's also taking over the modern list. And you're going to see the same thing at number 1 with Dragonlord Ojutai. $31.49, an increase of $5.49 is just massive. And that is also our number 1 biggest mover in Modern for the week. So, having said that, hey, thanks for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe. Let me know what you think of these videos. This is something I like to do weekly. I know there will be some weeks we'll take the week off because of spoiler news or set reviews and that type of stuff. But whenever possible, I would like to put one of these out so we can hopefully keep a close pulse on the market and some of the changes, especially after announcements are made or after Pro Tour coverage or things of that nature. So, hey, thanks a lot and have a great day.